business. We're back in session. Before I make my comments, Mr. Camardi has got one comment that he wants to make first.
There's one item that I have that's part of my responsibility, but I inherited it from our former chairperson, Mr. King. The East Carolina Council, which he was serving on, and then a month or so ago, I had the opportunity to take his place. I would like to read this letter as part of some of the things that he's done and was responsible for over the last several years. This is coming from the East Carolina Council. Dear Steve, on behalf of the ECC staff and board, we would like to thank you for the role you played in helping ECC to have a clean audit for year 12-13. The auditor has just completed their assessments of our operations, noting only a few minor things that have already been corrected. They had the highest praise for our operation. They especially remarked that the new fiscal software helped the staff management better. We appreciate everything that you've done for ECC and for your continued support of this organization and its goals. And I thought it was worthy to read that because I've attended one meeting, and without knowing all the background, it was obvious that over some last 5 or 6 years, there were some things that were not right. And then over the last 2 or 3, Mr. Keene, along with the folk that are still there, have helped to bring everything in line. And I thought it worthy today that he be also recognized for this accomplishment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Camardi. Thank you, Mr. Camardi. I'm going to keep my comments brief. Most of the activity has gone on in the last month has already been discussed. I did attend the Blue Star Memorial Highway dedication. Very fitting for our veterans and our men and women that have sacrificed so much for us to have the freedom that we have today. Also attended the Farm City banquet. Like Mr. Bates said, great turnout. Got some valuable information on the farming industry and what's going on in the county. Also, I have a report. Our landfill solid waste facility just went through a facility compliance inspection. We got an excellent report, and I just want to thank Tim Rogers and his staff. This is one department of county government that you don't hear a whole lot from. And I guess when something's not broke, it runs pretty smooth. But we got an excellent inspection report, and I just want to thank Tim and his staff for that.
Mr. Chairman, I have to point this out, and I appreciate you doing that. This is the second year, and I will say, and I appreciate excellent, but I have to tell you, we got a perfect report last year and this year, and that is tough. In the environmental rules that we undergo for those folks that work out there 7 days a week, we have a great operation. So I just, for Tim and all those folks out there, they are tremendous. I put them up against any other solid waste department in the state. They are terrific.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Moving on to unfinished business, authorized the purchase of Cuddington property, Wayne Executive Jetport entrance improvements, Wayne Community College Manufacturing Center of Excellence Equipment and Presentations.
Yes, sir. It's going to be a multifaceted and team effort for the next few minutes. We are this morning asking for the authorization of the purchase of the Cuddington property, but also authorization on the other projects. I do want to just real quickly talk about the projects. First, purchase of the Cuddington property that is optioned presently at the Mount Olive Industrial Park as a certified industrial site next or in the industrial park itself. It's 45 plus or minus acres, and we'll be appropriating $420,000 for that project. Also, and we've already approved the State Cemetery project, so I'd like to go to the Wayne Community College project just 1 second. This is the purchase of equipment for the Wayne Community College Manufacturing Center of Excellence. And I've got an attachment that most of the board had, but Mr. Chairman, if it's appropriate, I would very much love for Dr. Robertson, who's here today, to come up for just a couple of moments. I think it's important to go over, and if she doesn't have her document with her, I have mine. If she could, well, if you don't, I just think it would be great to go over that just a couple of minutes. This is, I know Mr. Mayo and I have talked about this, and this will put this county leap years ahead in this state in economic development and recruitment of jobs. So,
Well, that was a wonderful introduction. There is absolutely no question that the Wayne Center of Manufacturing Excellence, and that is ultimately what we would like to call it, not just the Wayne Community College Center of Manufacturing Excellence, already has entered into Phase 1. Phase 1 was the equipment that was secured through several Golden Leaf grants in the past couple of years. One was our community investment grant that just has been awarded in the last 6 to 8 months, and the other was a grant that we shared with Pitt Community College. Those grants enabled us to purchase manufacturing equipment, Mr. Mayo, that really is state-of-the-art. One of the really exciting areas that you're going to be hearing about in the very, very near future is our Festo equipment. And I have to add a little humor there. I could never remember. I'm not a manufacturing person. I could never remember what Festo stood for, so I called it Pesto because I could remember what we eat. Festo equipment is manufactured in Germany. And we, as part of the robotics, pneumatics, electronics that are a part of these manufactured simulation modules, it required our people to go over to Germany to get trained. They just got back. What you probably do not know, but I've been whispering in a few ears, is that this equipment that we're securing in Phase 1, Festo, is unique in the world. Not unique in the United States, unique in the world. Wayne County will be home to this Festo simulated manufacturing set of centers that people all over the world will want to look at. And I think that's incredible. Phase 1. To add to Phase 1 are the equipment items that have come before you in the past few weeks, to include equipment that's in our welding area, our machining area, and our engineering area. I would be happy to answer any questions about that equipment. We currently do not have it. You know, I have a very limited state budget that I have to share with 100 programs, that I have to have infrastructure at the college, you know, the computers and those types of things, the servers. And so there is absolutely no way, without leveraging funds from the various kinds of grants and this type of initiative, that we could do what we need to do to provide the workforce for advanced manufacturing in Wayne County and in our region. And I think that's incredibly important that we all hear. It is for Wayne County, and you know I'm the #1 cheerleader for Wayne County, but it is also for our region, and we want to bring that attention to Eastern North Carolina, and we're going to do it. So again, I'd be very happy to answer any questions about the specifics of the equipment.
Yes, I'm going to open the floor up for questions.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. And Mr. Mayo, I know this this part of the grant is dear to your heart, and I would certainly want you to make some comments and questions, and then after you get through, I think Mr. Pate, but Mr. Mayo, I think that you need to go first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, it's not any questions because I think we've gone through this. I just want to make a comment. Dr. Albertson and her staff at Wayne Community College, they get it. They know what we need to do in the future for economic development, along with workforce development. She gets it. And I'm really thankful that I can be a part of what Wayne Community College is doing. And it doesn't make any difference what happens. Manufacturing, she gets it, her and her staff. And I've been involved, of course, with the Wayne community for many, many years being a business owner. But now that I have gotten involved with Wayne Community College, and I see the dedication. They're one of the few in this county that have no fund balance. They keep very little, and I just appreciate what you do in the administration at Wayne Community College. So, again, I just thank you and your staff. The machine shop, I've seen it grow from, as you know, from when Ed Wilson was president. I've seen it grow from tabletop machines that was set in front of me on my desk to these huge machines that you see out in our industry. And that's been the goal all these years. So I'm just thankful that I'm a part of what you're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Pate.
And I'm gonna cheer you on too. There's not a lot more I can say that Mr. Mayo didn't say. You and I have worked together for years of workforce development. We know the needs in Wayne County. We know that every manufacturer in this Wayne County needs to hire people with those kind of skills, and they are sorely lacking, and they're really looking for them. Because the more, all those people you can train, they'll be able to go right to work.
There is no
And
question.
That's the key to the whole thing.
Absolutely. And to add to that, not just those workers who are already here, what we want to do is to assist this county in attracting new business and industry, and certainly expanding that business and industry that we already have existing. So we thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you for your
Mr. King.
She answered it.
I read your mind, Mr. King.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Marty.
Well, first, I would only like just to congratulate the president on what they're doing at Wayne Community College. And I would also like to boast that back around 1985, 86, when I first got involved here in Wayne County in school business, at the old campus, there was a lot of great things going on out there. But it's rewarding to see how you all have progressed to the environment that you're in.
Thank you.
And you're
21st
doing great-
century.
Doing great things.
Thank you so much.
My first venture into post-high school education was at one of your sister institutions in Fayetteville, Fayetteville Tech. So that's always been high on my thank you list. It's how I got started in post-high school education.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marty. Mr. King?
Yes, sir.
again.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we allocate these funds for the Wayne Community College Manufacturing City of Excellence Equipment presentation. Or without, well, and go ahead and have the presentation also. That's a motion.
Have a motion on the floor. Is any other comments?
Could I inquire in regards, are we going to be all-inclusive of this? or-
What I would recommend is I was going to go through the projects, describe them, and I wanted to bring up the president and executive director of the Eastern Region, John Chafee, to come up, because without their support and without these dollars, we could not do any of these. Could we do that?
I'd like to just amend the motion then. It's
Okay.
contingent on the monies being delivered
Okay.
through Mr. John Chafee with the Eastern Region, and upon the recipient of that from the county, that we go ahead and approve this recommendation and request for the Wayne Community College Manufacturing Center of Excellence.
Any other comments? The pleasures of the board. We have a motion on the floor. Do we accept this grant money? All in favor, show of sign, right hand. All opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, and
unanimous.
the one purchase for Wayne Community College is $643,600 for the equipment for the Manufacturing Center of Excellence. And we are requesting, and have requested, and the board has already certified to $1,877,864.75 requested from the Eastern Region for these projects, including the Wayne Executive Jetport for signage, entrance construction, possible pavement improvements, security, and fencing of $352,194.75. For the purchase of the Cuttington property optioned for 45 plus or minus acres to include some closing and survey work of $420,000, and the State Cemetery project with purchase of 50.23 plus or minus acres on Long's Plant Farm Road. And just to reiterate that has been approved by the state and federal government and we're moving forward. That is $462,070 for a total of $1.877864.75 million. There is remaining $576,923.08 that is part of a 1/13 state allocation that we will be talking to John and his staff about coming. So what I would like to do, Mr. Chairman, is ask Mr. Chafee to come up at this time and talk about these funds and the process, and also to thank him and his staff because they are going through a lot of iterations and changes with his organization, and he talked about that. But I'd like to bring him up at this time and talk about this for the allocation of these dollars. Come on.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Always nice to be able to be in your company. Thanks for the opportunity to be here this morning. Just want to say we've received the request. It's been discussed in terms of the three people that are the ones that basically say, ratify and say you're in good shape, and you are, which is our financial officer, our attorney, and myself. So we've reviewed the request. Everything seems to be in good shape. They are qualified economic development projects. The money's available. You have but one piece of paper, I think, that needs, or maybe two, that
Yes,
needs
so
to be
we
submitted. You
certified
took
the
care of
minutes.
that this morning.
Mhm.
And so the clerk will basically send us a certified copy of the minutes of the meeting. And once that's taken care of, we'll write you the check. And we can either hand deliver it or drop it in the mail. That's your choice.
I'll come get it. I'll write
You'll
up.
come, I thought
Tell
you.
you right here.
I'll be there.
I'll pick it up.
So you're good? These are
I'll
the,
pick it up,
this is
John.
basically, just for everybody to know, this is essentially Wayne County's balance in its trust fund account with the Eastern Region. And so as we're going around and speaking, as I did with you here a month or so ago, I guess, talking about the transition of the Eastern Region as a regional municipality, a public entity, over to a private not-for-profit, counties have that option to be able to request their trust fund monies. If they don't request it prior to June 30th, 2014, then basically we will write them a check at the end of the fiscal year, provided to them. But it is mandated by both our original legislation as well as our closing legislation. The act that basically dissolves the public entity is it must be used for economic development purposes. From the sounds of it, in terms of what I've read, what I've heard, it sounds like you've chosen wisely projects that will have a long-lasting impact on the people of Wayne County and to the benefit of the people of Wayne County. So I applaud you for your decisions, what you've done, and the fact that you're moving forward. And the only other thing I can say is I hope you come up with a great project to borrow that $576,000 some odd dollars and put that to use before that goes away, again, at the end of this fiscal year. Because it was a state appropriation, a one-time state appropriation. When the public entities dissolved, we basically have whatever's money is left in that account. We have to write that check and send it back to the state treasurer. So it's the attitude of our board. Mr. Mayo, thank you very much for serving. It's the attitude of our board and Mr. Bell, excuse me, sir, is that we'd like to put that money to use in our region, which is what it was intended for 20-some odd years ago. So again, you're in great shape, and we'll look forward to Lee coming over and picking up that check.
Yes.
I wish you well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Respond to any questions you might have if you like.
Mr. Chairman,
Any questions? Mr. Doherty?
I want to commend you and your staff for the speed in which you reacted to this. You hear that government runs slowly.
I've heard that.
This time it ran very rapidly, and I just want to applaud you and thank you so much, because I'm sure you had to work through the holiday season over some of this, and I just really appreciate it. Thank you for your fast and conscientious work on this. And anytime you want to come back and visit us with another $1.877 million, come on back.
Well, we have a lot of good partners in Wayne County, including the community college, now the public school system, and some others. So we're working on some things to think about regionally, what is it we can do to address the needs of our population, put them in a better position to be competitive, which simply puts your Economic Development Commission in a more competitive position to compete for those new projects or those expansion projects. So we'll keep you in mind, and we'll be more than happy to come back if we have that opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Mr. King.
Oh, so thank you.
With that said, I'd like to go ahead and put another motion on the floor contingent on receiving the funds that we approve all the projects as mentioned before us today. Mr. Chair.
Have a motion on the floor. Any comments? Have a motion on the floor that we accept the, Mr. King's, motion. All in favor, show of right hand. All opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
Yes, I just want to say, Mr. Chafee, thank you for your service, and I put a motion on the floor at my last meeting. I tried to get the other counties to let us have their money also. So, they didn't buy it, so.
Well, I
thank
did send an
you.
email and asked the manager, if you had any money left over, let me know. I'd take it.
Then there may be, so we'll let them.
Well, I'm
know
watching
if
it.
comes.
That's
Because
correct.
again, we'd rather put it to use, but it's always nice to see a unanimous vote.
Yeah.
And so thank you for your confidence, thank you for your proactivity in Wayne County. I have to say, you're one of the greatest partners we've got, and we wish we could replicate that around the region, not only in terms of this commission, but your EDC. They do a great job, and so you're very fortunate in that respect, as are all the staff members in which we've come in contact in Wayne County. So we look forward to going forward. Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Mr. Chairman, one of the things that and don't leave because we're doing pictures in a minute.
Oh,
Okay. One of the things of this $1.8 million investment with the Cuttington property, the State Cemetery project, the Wayne Community College project, the Wayne Executive Jetport, I was thinking last night about the impact the State Cemetery project, both direct and indirect. This is with tourism, with visitors, and with actual payroll and investment from the state federal government on an annual basis will exceed $8 million a year. The Cuttington property has, as Joanna Helms with WCDA understands, that this $420,000 can very easily turn into an annual $420,000 to the county back in tax receipts with location of industry. With Wayne Community College, that $643,000 will turn into multiple millions of dollars in training and in labor reduction in cost to our local manufacturers. That is huge. That means more profitability to companies. With the Wayne Executive Jetport, as we've got some of our members from the advisory board here today, and we'll be calling out in just a moment for an opportunity, photo opportunity. This is also, when you look at the jets that have been recruited, with the planes that are there, when you look at all these projects, the annual receipt of direct and indirect dollars will exceed $12 million a year from a $1.8 million investment. That was $10 to $12 million a year. Multiply that times 20. This is a pretty good investment. I appreciate you taking this. I appreciate all the staff, the community college, and as John stated, you as a board asked us early in the year to look at projects that were doable and get them shovel ready. That's what you did, and we had projects ready. When the money came, you jumped. And this is what we need to keep doing. So John just needs to find money. You know, we'll be good. So anyway.
Yes, sir, Mr. King.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to reiterate the comments that have been made that government may be slow, but the staff, in this case, took something that looked nearly impossible at the time and made it happen in just lightning speed. And it's all because of Lee Smith and his staff that put it together, stayed on the phone, and got it done. And I really appreciate that, and I hope
Sure.
I know
Thank
the
you.
commissioners do. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. King.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, with the approval, what we would like to do is we would, I guess, Marcia, and for the public affairs, you want to do the Cuttington first? Okay. And do they have a list of persons? I know if it asks the board, if you would come step down, please. And Joanna, Mr. Chafee, Neil.
Did Mr. George Kanicki get here? Kevin.
It's your time. Take your time.
I want you to stick next to me about
Wayne and John Chafee in the center, if we can do that. And, hey, Marcy, come on, she organized this all. Come on, Marcy. Here. Yeah.
Gordon, go. If you don't mind. Thank you. There we go.
All right.
Everybody ready? Here we go. On 4, 3, thank you.
You need another one?
I lost count. One more.
One more, just in case.
One more just in case.
It's tough to get these people in a room.
In 5, thank you.
And I did say, we did have Joanna Helms, President of WCDA, and Mr. Neil Benton, who is Chair of WCDA Board. Appreciate them being here today, too, and thank you, John. Thank y'all very much. State Cemetery. State Cemetery. Okay, if you guys would stay right here, we're going to do the State Cemetery project. And let's see, I know I saw Mr. Anderson, and let's see, Mr. Pate had guests. If you'd call your guests up. Yep. Okay, if you'd call them up, please. John, you're in all of them.
Just the person handing out the money all.
That's right. You're needed right now. Sure. I can print them off in my office. I'm trying to figure out how to print money. Wayne, wait a minute.
Thank you.
Can you see everybody?
All right, here we go. And whatever, thank you. Very good.
You got it?
Got it.
Got it.
Here we go.
Thank
One more. Let's do one more. All right, here we go.
Uh-oh. Okay, look this way one more time.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Very
You have
good.
good cameras. Good. Thank y'all.
It's in the mail.
It's in the mail. All right, Wayne Community College.
We lost Dr. Good.
Okay. Dr. Gooding had an appointment. Jimmy Evanson also had an appointment, so they were not here for the past, but we appreciate them trying to be here this morning. That's all right.
I will take this check anytime. Money, Wayne.
Yeah, you should have heard her on the phone when I called her.
Okay, here we go. Smile. Good, thank you.
Great.
One more.
Did you find her speechless?
No, I heard a high squeal.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Very good. Thank you.
Good. Thank y'all.
Good job.
Very good. Thank you. All right.
Got one more.
Yes. We got another one. Wayne Executive Jetport. So I'd ask all of our guests with the Wayne Executive Jetport, please, to come forward. And Ray, do you want to invite or introduce your guests for the Wayne Executive Jetport?
Yeah, this is Donnie Sasser.
Mr. Coker. Jack Coker. He's the tall guy.
I have a slinger moment.
All right, here we go. Ready? And done. Thank you. One more.
One more.
All right. If you please, in 5, 4, 3, 2, whoop. Start over. 5, 4, 3, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Good.
Got it? Good. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thanks, John.
Thank you very much.
We'll get that to you yesterday. That sounds good. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Have you corrected?
Mr. Parker?
I almost knew you were.
I think it would go, we would be bad if we didn't mention that a former chairman of your board, John Wooten, and a former mayor of Goldsboro, Howell Plump, were instrumental in convincing the citizens in the Eastern region to vote for this money and to save the money. And I think it shows you what the leadership in Wayne County has done over many years.
Thank you, Mr. Parker, for your comments.
We'll make sure we note that in the minutes too. Thank you.
That concludes that part of the
sir.
business. And the grants. Mr. Parker, Radio Communications Company contract, would you bring us up to date, bring the board up to date on where we stand with that?
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I have been working with the people from RCC and their lawyers, along with the county staff and the chairman who's been working with us, trying to make sure that we can have a contract that will do what the board has said they wanted done about upgrading the communication system. We hope that if we don't have something for you at your next meeting, that we'll have something for your first meeting in January.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Any comments or questions from the board?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. King?
About 8 weeks ago, I was given a budget amendment to sign. And I brought this before Mr. Parker, this budget amendment, and I cannot right now remember the amount. Finance Director is sitting in the audience, Ms. Holt.
$2 million plus.
It was $2 million plus, and I was asked to sign it as chairman, and I went to council and asked Mr. Parker, should I sign it? Mr. Parker, what did you tell me?
Told you you did not have to sign it until the contract was ready to be signed, that there wasn't anything to be done with that money until that, and as I've just reported, the contract is still not ready to sign today.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. And with that said, I would suggest to the board that we take this same information and the same advice as our council and not sign anything until the council is convinced that what this company has told us is absolutely the truth and nothing but the truth, and they can do exactly what they said they can do, and it be on contract, written down with performance bond and all of the other items that was talked about 2 months ago. I would strongly recommend and suggest that to this board. That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King, for your comments. Anything else, Mr. Parker?
No, yes.
Okay. Moving on to the next item of business. New business. We've already taken care of the Duke Energy. Wayne County ABC Board presentation.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Smith.
I would ask Mr. Mike Meyer, the business manager with the ABC Board, if he would come forward, please. I think he has some guests with him, and he could introduce him while he's up today.
Will, I think it's still morning.
It's quarter to 8.
It is.
That's what
I'm
the
Mike
clock said.
Merrick, the business manager of the Wayne County ABC Board. Today I've got most of my board here. I've got Joe Sorio, our chairman, Miles Kelly, Linda Jones, Shelton Moore, and I also have my finance officer, Tommy Fuse, here today. We just wanted to come over like we do every year and go over what happened the last year. Again, it was a good year. We actually gave you a lot of extra money when they lowered the amount of working capital we could keep. Again, we had $7,600,000 in sales. That was up 3% from the previous year. About $640,000 in revenue. It was a good year. The first slide, I don't know if you have them in this order. The first slide I'm talking, this is our profit and loss. If you've got any questions about that, basically just a breakdown on our stores, what we did each month, and then where our profit basically went to down at the bottom. The second slide is a revenue slide, and it's sort of inflated with that extra $460,000 we were allowed to give you last year. But as you notice, we gave a lot of money to the general fund. Right off the top, in my last slide I'll show you is a state slide, but the general fund, about 1.6 million, Department of Revenue 71,000, and Human Health and Services about 7,000. That's about $1.7 million goes off the top of our revenue and goes to the state. Just to let you know, and need be, it goes to the general fund and is serving a good purpose in the general fund. But basically 75% of our revenue profits go to the state, 25% stay here in the local area. And it shows you what we did with it last year, our local rehabilitation, about 27,000, law enforcement about 27,000, and that's our local law enforcement officer. There's a little question going through the state ALE right now on who's doing the work locally in the areas, and I'm proud to say that we have a part-time local law enforcement officer. We've had two real good ones. George Racer just retired. Glenn Odom's just taken back over. Glenn was working for us 5 or 6 years ago before he became a magistrate for 5 years. But we do a lot of work on this local level of local law enforcement. He provides the security at our stores and also checks the local permittees, the local bars and restaurants that have ABC permits. He does the annual checks. In fact, does 2 a year on those establishments. City of Mount Olive, 72,000. City of Goldsboro, 382,000. A little bit to Fremont. We've still got some in Fremont money left in there. And County of Wayne, about 449,000. Now, those numbers were inflated with that extra $460,000 we gave you, but we're still up from 2 years ago. We were in our distributions to the county and to the cities. Total, we were given about $410,000, $420,000. We're up to about $600,000 now, and that's a credit to how this system's working here in Wayne County. We've cut everything we can cut. We did give some of our lower paid employees a little bit of a raise, well deserved. But again, things went real well. And as you can see, about total distributions about $2.7 million, and that's out of a sales of $7.6 million. That's a pretty good return, and your money back to some place for revenue to go into local and to the state governments. The last one I have is the state chart there that shows basically where everything goes. Always like to bring this up on the state side. With sales of $829 million, ABC business is a big business in North Carolina. The general fund, which they get it right off the top, the 30% and a couple other taxes right off the top, $238 million goes to the general fund right off the top. Then the good things that are left in this the system that we run in North Carolina, the control system. Distributions to the local counties and cities, $55 million. The North Carolina ABC Commission is financed, even though it's a state agency and a state employees, we at the local level finance that. We finance that on a surcharge that they charge us. I think I brought it up a couple of years ago. The surcharge was put in effect in 1971. Mr. Keene's smiling. Was put in effect in 1971 to build the warehouse out there that holds all the distribution. In 1983, when the warehouse was paid off, they didn't stop the surcharge. What they did was turn around and make us continue to pay that surcharge, and what they do now is it pays the salaries and the programs of a state agency, the North Carolina ABC Commission. The other part of that is the distribution part of it, the liquor that runs through the state warehouse. It's a company out of Texas, LB&B. They have the contract to the tune of about $7 million, and they provide all the distribution of the ABC products throughout the state. Some other things that the local revenue does, local alcohol education, about $10 million. That's where we ran our programs. We had a real good program a couple of years ago with the Children's Theater doing one-act plays, was very good. We've got Roman Gabriel III in here the last 2 years, going to the school system, has been well received by the teachers and the principals on almost every high school in the county. Our local law enforcement money, again, that's Glenn Odom's money, and then basically a little bit for rehabilitation and health and human services. Again, a little plug on our system. We're third in the nation in revenue, and that's the private states too. There are 33 private states and 17 control states. We're a control state. We believe in the control sale of liquor and the generation of revenue. We do that very well. Again, third in the nation in revenue. We're only 49th in consumption. North Carolina's only 49th in consumption. So you get that ratio of third in revenue and 49th in consumption. That's a very good ratio. It does say that we're taxing the people that buy liquor quite a bit, but again, it is going into some worthwhile things. Our local ABC Association in North Carolina is fighting to keep some of these costs down. The bailment cost and the surcharge. The bailment cost is how much we pay for a case to be shipped through the distribution system. They've got a lot of excess money that the commission has that should stay back here. Hopefully we're going to see a reduction in that bailment. 5 cents. 5 cents would bring an extra $29,000 back into the county. So those are some of the things that are looking on the state side of the house. I'm here for any questions on anything about ABC.
Anyone, any questions from any of the board members?
We also have some good news. If my chairman would come up here, Joe Sawyer, we've got, again, we're trying to bring this down when they change the rules on how much we can keep in our local working capital. That's why we had that extra $460,000, because they changed it from 4 months to 3 months. We're still trying to get it down, but the good news is we've got another check for you, an additional check from the distributions of around a little over $84,000. Joe would like to present to you. However you want to.
Mr. Chairman and members of the county commissioners, we don't have one of those large checks that you can take a picture with, but we'd like to present you today with a check for $84,285 from the Wayne County ABC Board. On behalf of the board, I'd like to present this to you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We're going to ask the board to,
in the house.
yeah, ask the board to step down if we could.
I'll take some more money.
You can see the chip.
You can do it. Mike, y'all go ahead. Oh, come on.
We can all get just a little closer together.
Tighten up.
Tighten up. Archie Bell used to say. All right, there's Steve King. Well, we're not ready. Can we tighten up any more at all? Sure. Can we do that? We're getting close. That's good. That's good. There you go. Marcia, go ahead. All right, here we go. Pardon me. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. One more. And again. In. Well. Back up. In. No. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good job.
I'm sure Irvin's getting along better. We didn't mention a word, but
You don't want to go private?
No,
Marge Spence. No, I already gave you some. Come on. Okay, you too. Thank you.
You do know Irvin's still in the rehab. What?
Rehab?
He had an automobile accident, a bad one. Really? That was what, 2 weeks ago? I've been Benson intersection. I ran right into it. But he's doing much better. Broke his ribs and really messed him up pretty bad, but he's doing a lot better, so he should be out maybe the end of this week.
I still hope so.
82. So it took for him to heal him. Well, I mean, it's pretty good.
I guess he's surprised you got that camera. Come on, little. Public knows I appreciate this cookie. Get it separated.
Did Lee run off with that check?
Say she's got it.
Going to the bank.
Put it in the bank.
We're gonna hold up for just a minute. The county manager had to step out just a minute, but he'll be right back and we'll move on with the business.
Give me a chance to take one more cookies.
Is she
I'm
filming?
scared to get started on them cookies.
I'll be back.
I think she came to get the check.
Take that picture and then we should leave.
We like the positive aspect.
Our stomach's growling so bad, talking to the kids out there.
Well, I got something right here. My wife will eat all day.
I had one. I still have.
That's there. Yeah, just me and Joe. Where's your old book?
I had a wedding.
I knew you. We had a great time. It was one of the longest phrases ever had. We got jammed up. We had to wait for them to move around before we get back on the main street. Eight more Tootsie Rolls and then all right, that was about a store.
Tootsie Roll.
Just up there and everybody went.
Three Saturdays.
3 Saturday, man.
Oh, yeah, supposed to rain.
Mount
All
Olive.
day
Fremont.
long.
Mount Olive is lined up as a 9 o'clock in the morning. And then Fremont. And then go.
Man, all Fremont still was all day.
I don't know how.
We just calling for possible showers, alternative clothes.
I should go see Cindy right now. She's not bad.
9 o'clock.
She's gonna have to let go.
Ray starts at 10. Milford has to go to golf cart and all that. We ain't got to be there at 9. And my neighbor's retiring out of the Air Force about 36 years, and he wants me to go to space at 3 o'clock. You can't spread yourself for so things. So he's the chairman. What's that?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I think Lee may be tied up for a little while.
No, he's not.
Oh, he's not?
No, he just said he had to run this.
Okay. All right.
He said he'd be right back.
This, yeah, we got 3 Christmas trees to save.
See that?
3 Christmas trees.
All Saturday, yeah. We're gonna run all day. And I don't remember last year, I don't have no Christmas tree.
Yeah.
No Christmas, I know, but Pike, I don't remember Pike.
Pikeville is not Saturday.
No.
Yeah, but they have one.
Yeah, they have one every year.
Yeah, they have.
Thursday's on a
I didn't go
Sunday.
to that one last year. I wonder why I didn't go to that. All right, there you go. Well, it might have been, I was thinking. Might have been where I was.
You ready, Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir, sorry.
Okay, let's move on. You,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir, Mr. King.
there was mention this morning from the manager that with the funds that are being brought by the ABC board, there may be some interest in some need for those funds to be distributed from the guardian ad litem family drug court that Judge Brantley and Colleen
Krasinski
from the guardian ad litem had been speaking. I know they spoke to Mr. Pate and Mr. Mayo about 2 months ago, Mr. Smith, and you brought that up this morning as a possibility. And Mr. Chairman, I would respectfully request that maybe we get some of that information at this time.
Yes, sir, Mr. Smith.
Thank you,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
We have had meetings with Ken Jones with East Point and also with Colleen, Guardian Ad Litem Program with Judicial District 8, and with Judge Brantley, who've been running this program, which is the Family Drug Treatment Court Program. And basically, you know, they take referrals, Borden into this program. They do drug testing. Can you give any, I mean, just kind of a 2-second on it?
The people that are referred are ones who are before the juvenile court that is dealing with abused, neglected, and dependent juveniles that the Guardian Ad Litem program works with as well. And we are finding that a lot of the juveniles that are coming before that court have drug problems in their home with parents or caretakers. And if it's appropriate, these individuals are taken into the drug court. Drug court will see them initially every other week and then maybe every month. And it goes generally for up to 9 months before they would graduate. They are drug tested every time that they go to court, and there are some sanctions if they have a positive test.
Part of, right now in Lenoir County, Lenoir and Wayne County have been working, they have a program, and we've had a program, basically our program is on delay because of funding, and we are now getting a backlog from this DSS and these referrals, and so they get placed on other programs that are costing the county, state, and federal government at a much higher rate. When I've met with Colleen and with Judge Brantley and with Ken Jones, we agree that there is a cost savings annually at just for the next 6 months. If we're able to do this, it's $42,000 that we need. That has in the past come from the funding that the county gave through East Point, and that in turn rolled into this local program. Now, part of the, as Mr. King knows, there are, with the new Medicaid rules for the MCO, there are issues with funding counties differently because this is one entity now. The county lines don't matter. However, when the agreement was put together to merge all the 12 counties, it was agreed that if a county wanted a program, it had to pay for it, or if a program was paid for and allowed through some of the programs of East Point and through the MCO, then all that program had to be made available to all the counties. And right now, Robinson County, Lenoir County, and Wayne County, and I think there's one more that does a little bit of it. The rest really don't have this program. So there's an issue there. Until we can resolve that issue, because as Mr. Keene knows very well, they're going through the new iterations of the Medicaid rules. It is ever changing with East Point. In the meantime, they are asking for $42,000. That is to cover some personnel costs, the drug test kits, and the personnel within the department to assist during court. Lenoir allocated, I think they allocated $268,000 for local programs, but that does not allow them to come over into Wayne County. We know we have a backlog now. The savings is about $300,000 by getting rid of this backlog from January 1st to June 30 of 2014. And I feel very comfortable with the information that Judge Brantley and Colleen Kosinski have brought to us. What I would ask is for, if you want to, I'm not really asking for action today, other than I would like to consider at the next meeting and bring to you Judge Brantley, Colleen, and maybe Ken Jones, talk about the program and also talk about the impacts that it has, and maybe bring someone from DSS, because they, without being able to refer, they're getting backlogged, which cost us money. To bring them here and talk about the use of this $80-some thousand contributed today from ABC. That's a very good connection as far as use of those dollars. So I'm really asking to hold on use and bring them here, if you would allow us, in the next December, December 17th, if we have that, or January, whenever we have the next meeting, to go over this and look at the cost savings on foster care, because that is a huge cost, and look at cost avoidance and reduction. Bring them here and then let you take a look at that and see if you have, if you would like to do that. But I want you to have all the information. So today, just bring it to you as a thought and idea. That's.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. King.
I appreciate that, Mr. Smith, and your recommendation, and I do agree with you that we really need to thoroughly look at this.
Yes.
It is part of the $640,000 that we did not transfer. We did stop payment on the East Point allocation, the $640,000, and this was part of it. And we did tell them, though, if they saw that the funds were needed in an emergency case, and this is what has been presented to us by Judge Brantley and Mr. Kinsey, that it's very important that we fund to get them through June 30.
Yeah.
And my question is that if we wait until January and act on it at that time, are they okay until January?
The program's on delay here.
Well, they're still doing something.
They're doing it. Yeah, well, for the ones that are in it, so they're not adding people. Now that backlog is being caused. So we're still working the present cases, but not allowing new cases and referrals to come in, which we're backlogging. And I've talked to David Jones about it yesterday, and we are backlogging.
How many?
On the backlogs?
Yes, sir.
Oh, gosh, I cannot remember. I apologize. I mean,
it was approximately, the last report was 2 weeks ago, 12 to 14.
I want to think now we've got 15 or 16, I believe. I mean, families that are now backlogged.
That, Mr. Chairman, if I may just follow up, that is a concern of the backlog that we're getting. These funds are from alcohol sales, the substance abuse at these families. It's just not drugs, it is alcohol. It is what is happening in the families. These children are being affected. And to put it off, I understand the getting into the weeds, if that's what the board would like. But if you're telling me this backlog is okay, and these families are not getting served, and we're not taking any more through the holidays and into January, I just feel like, Mr. Chairman, just concerned about that.
Mr.
It
Smith.
it is a
and
major
Chairman.
concern.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Doherty.
I think in that the funds are available and the need is great, I see no need for us to forego this, and therefore I make a motion that we approve the recommendation of the county manager and allocate those funds.
Any other comments from any of the board members?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate Mr. Daugherty doing that. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Will that include the necessary budget amendment to allocate the?
It so does.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Pleasure to board. All in favor of Mr. Doherty's motion, show of right hand. Motion carries unanimous.
I'd like to say, Mr. Chairman, that one of the discussion that myself and previous chair, Mr. King, and I have held with some of the representatives in these programs is that this is for 6 months, that we want full disclosure on the program. We also want full disclosure from, and I appreciate having East Point timing is perfect for them to come in February so that we can look at how this could be funded moving forward, what the impacts are, and where the dollars are going to come from. I told them there was no assurance that going July 1st, that we needed to work as a team to look at how we move forward.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. King.
That comment, thank you, Mr. Smith, for bringing that up. I'd like to ask that, what is the amount of monthly payments that we are charging for rent to East Point on the building that they're now in per month?
$10,000.
Okay, and when did we start that?
We started billing July.
No, we
Well,
just started the billing.
just
because
started billing,
all the
yeah.
The documentation's just come.
Yeah.
All the signatures.
Okay,
But we've
I
billed
was,
them for 6 months now.
Yeah.
July through December.
We've retroed back, so
Okay,
it
I was
would be
in-
$120,000 for the year.
okay, and then I would suggest then with your comments is that when we start working on the budget in March, February or March, Mr. Chairman, that as you sit through these with the county manager, that we recognize that we are having a rent, this now is being subsidized by $120,000 in rent. I'm not sure with facilities and how much the funds are that are being used to upkeep the building, but there might be some funds there that we could redistribute into such programs as this to sustain them.
I think it's something we need to look at.
Thanks.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is that all on the ABC
Yes, sir.
presentation?
Yeah.
Next item is County of Wayne Fund Balance Audit Presentation for June 30th, 2013. I think Ms. Lane and Ms. Holt's going.
Let's get here to introduce our guest.
Okay.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Dana Lane and Paul Nunn with NumberShare. They're our external auditors, and they'll be presenting the audit as of June 30th, 2013. We move between so many years all the time.
What's better this year?
What we're talking about today, or be presenting today, is the fund balance. You know, we have three major parts of the financial statement. We have capital project funds, special revenue funds, proprietary funds, and then the general fund, which is the funds we're presenting today, which is basically what the commissioners, you as a board, have most of the control over. I will give you a handout. I guess since it's not a check, you won't be getting a picture made, but that's okay. The first page, which is called Exhibit 5, which is just an extraction from the regular audit. By the way, the audit was submitted to the Local Government Commission. Thank you. About 3 weeks ago, we received notice yesterday that it was approved as submitted, so there will not be any changes to it or adjustments to it. So the numbers that you see today will be accurate and be reflected in the actual financial statements. So if you look at Exhibit 5, which is the first page, we have original budget, final budget, and then the actual. And the column that we're interested in is the actual column. For the general fund, we had total revenues of $99,257,000. We had expenditures of $92,428,000 for excess or of revenues over expenditures of $6,828,000. Then we had some transfers out of $1,426,000 and some sale of assets, which generated $27,934. For total what they call other financing sources and uses of $1,398,000 for an increase of fund balance for the year that just ended June 30 of 13 of $5,430,571. If you add that to the beginning fund balance of $56,338,000, we wind up with a fund balance in the general fund of $61,769. Now, the devil's always in the details, and the next page is what the $61 million is comprised of. So I'm going to ask Dana to go over this portion of it.
All right, so this is actually from the audit itself. It's one of the last in the note disclosures, but it provides a lot of information. And your fund balance is broken up into basically 4 areas. Restricted, which means it's really restricted from an outside source, state, federal governments, laws, things like that. Committed, which means the board yourselves have committed it for whatever purpose. And assigned, which means mainly management or maybe somebody from the public or something like that has assigned it, and then what's left over or your unassigned position. Okay, so of that $61 million, you have what's restricted for state stabilization, and that's it's unique to North Carolina. It's a calculation where you have to set aside a portion of your fund balance to cover some liabilities and some different things like that. I have more details on the next page to show you how that calculation comes about, and we can look at that in a minute. You have restricted for future debt payment, and that is the quality school construction bond. That figure is going to go up every year for 12 or 13 years until it reaches $15 million to pay your debt off, because that is like a sinking fund debt. You don't actually pay every year on that debt. You set it aside in a bank account, and in 15 years you'll pay, or 12 years you'll pay off that debt. So that's restricted there. You have restricted for public schools. That deals with tax revenues. You have some restrictions for law enforcement, court facilities, and grants. Then you have some committed fund balance, and that's tax revaluation funds, community college, and some public schools restrictions. You have some assigned for subsequent years' expenditures, and that would be like budget appropriations and some other items. And like I said, on the next page we'll go through it. You have some assigned for donations, and then you have your working fund balance policy, and then you have what's called the remaining fund balance, and that $19,457,000 is what you have the freedom to basically do what you want with. So.
Question?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. We committed some monies to this Ag Center.
Yeah, next page we'll go in
Next
detail.
page.
Yeah, we're going to go on the next page. We'll go into more detail on those.
I just wanted to make.
Just a quick question on that page, if I could.
Yes, sir.
Down here, the 3.1 million for public schools, what is that 3.1 million? I see the 10.3 million. What is the 3.1?
We're going to cover that on the next page.
Okay.
We're going to go to each line.
All right, okay, all right, we'll just wait then. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, so restricted for state stabilization, like I said, that's a unique calculation where you take your cash, both restricted and unrestricted, you subtract out your liabilities and your unearned revenues, and the difference between your fund balance available, which is that difference between your cash and your liabilities, unearned revenues, and your total fund balance. You have to restrict that difference for state stabilization. Okay? No choice, it's the law.
Excuse me, is it not a percentage?
No, it is not a percentage.
It's not a percentage?
No. It roughly equates to around 6%. That's probably what you've been told.
Right.
But that's just a rough. This year it's 5 point something. I think you calculated it out. It's 5.66 or something like that. But it is not. It's actual. Yeah.
Now, the percentage you may be talking about, Mr. Commissioner, is.
You're thinking 8%. That is just a suggestion by the state for your working fund balance policy.
We'll get to that at the very end.
Okay.
Yep, we've got all our bases covered for you.
All right.
All right. Next, I told you before, restricted for future debt payments. That's the QSCAB loans. And like I said, it will increase every year until it reaches $15 million. But you're also setting that aside in cash every year. So it's like you're making that debt payment, but it's going into a restricted bank account that is in Wayne County's name, okay?
That's also as part of that deal just for new board members. When that was approved with the qualified school bonds, when this, moving into this sinking fund, and this was a suggestion that really by our finance folks with Davenport, that we do it this way with the bank. And at the end, we should have, based on interest earnings, anywhere from what, 800,000 up to $1 million. And we agreed that at that time, from that, you pay off the debt, that other $1 million is then available for school use. So we turned that money into additional dollars, which I think was a pretty smart move to do that. So
Also, the federal government gives you back your interest paid every year.
that's right.
So the interest you pay on the debt every year, the government
Comes
gives back to the county.
Plus the interest earned in the sinking fund, so.
Is it my understanding those dollars, though, are really paid from school funds?
Lottery fund.
From lottery funds.
From lottery funds?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and then you have restricted for public schools. That's because of the county sales tax requirement. Okay. Restricted for law enforcement, that's around 400,000. That's controlled substance, seized property, concealed weapons, and fingerprint fees. Those have specific designations on how they have to be used. Restricted for court facilities, again, those fees received are specified how they could be used. Restricted for grants, that's some monies, you received them years ago. It was a grant that was received to be used for the Ag Center, but it was never spent, so it'll be spent during this year, I assume, once construction gets underway.
Question
Yes, sir.
on that particular, Mr. Chairman, on that particular line item. Those funds were created by Senator John Clark some years ago, and very much appreciated his foresight. Those funds have been already used, some of those funds, Mr. Smith, to acquire some direction from architect and feasibility study.
That's correct.
That was done here about 6-7 months ago. How much is, what's the balance of that account?
Around, it's around 171,000.
Yes. About 171,000.
The reason I ask is some of the board members had asked about moving forward with some plans, some preliminary design work. Not design build, but
Sure.
just, and wanted to know if there were funds available.
Just
Mr.
concepts.
Chairman. Concepts, and.
That's what it's for.
Okay, thank you, just clarify. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And we've held those funds.
Was it about 25,000 on that study, is that what it was?
Well, we had the original study plus the last, which was under 10,000, so Pam's right, would, between the two, about $30,000. So we're at, so 170, 171, yeah.
Okay, you have about 649,000 that's committed for tax revaluation purposes. That sets aside a special fund for those proceedings every 3 years. Committed for the community college, again, there's a portion of funds that are set aside for that. Committed for public schools, that $3 million that you've asked about. That is the special fund, 182, is it?
185.
185.
This is about the balance, your current expense and your maintenance capital outlay funds. We talked about
Can you step up there so they can hear you too?
your current expense funds and your capital maintenance outlay funds have a fund balance in them, and they are committed because for the schools. That's the balance that's in those funds. We have several funds that hold schools' money. I have presented them to you, at some of the meetings with the board, and this is some of the funds that are part of this.
So if I'm understanding,
Go ahead,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Doherty.
If I'm understanding, then the $3 million is really for this year's capital funding as far as repairs and maintenance and that type of thing, is that correct?
Well, you got to remember that the auditors are presenting as of June 30th, 2013.
Okay.
So you appropriated additional funds in this year's budget. As of June 30th, 2013, these were fund balances left in those funds.
That's right.
Now, they can reappropriate some of them in the next year, if they want.
If they choose.
But it is for repairs and maintenance,
Yes.
is that correct?
And current expense.
And current expense.
And
yeah.
current expense, okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. King.
brings to question, thank you, Mr. Daughtery, sort of reminded me of the monies then as of June 30. So as of June 30, those funds were there and carried over. And then we've appropriated how much money for after July 1st through 14? How much have we appropriated?
Well, we do 2 million we do 2 million a year in capital outlay maintenance, and then we do about 18 million in current expense.
So this is a 6/30, 2013, and what was the carryover that they did not spend?
The 3.1 million.
Okay, so they carried over 3.1 million that they did not spend, that was allocated for school repairs.
But you've got to remember, this is not in 1 year. This is many, many years.
Yes.
This could be carried forward over 20 years, you know.
That's right.
So it
So-
carries forward every year.
Over time.
I'm not questioning the way the Board of Education spends money. It's just that if we appropriate $2 million a year, do they set it aside purposely for some purpose or reason, and they not spend it in school improvements like we foreseen in Grantham, for example, of some improvements that's such much needed in that area. $3,170,000 carried over is quite a bit of money.
We, when we appropriate the $2 million in the capital outlay maintenance fund, we pay they submit their invoices and we pay them for them. We don't send the $2 million over there for them to pay bills. They actually submit the invoices to us and we pay them for them. So if they don't submit enough invoices that come to the $2 million, then it moves forward into the next year.
And just a follow-up comment, Mr. Chairman, in Southern Wayne School also in dire needs of repairs in the Southern Wayne area. And as we move forward in allocating funds to the school board, I'd just like to make a mark on that particular part, is that as we move forward, how much money do they intend to carry over each year, if those monies are there for improvements? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Daugherty.
If I'm understanding this, you carried over as of June the 30th, the end of our fiscal year, there was $3.1 million in repairs and maintenance, basically available to that's carried forward. That was the balance. We appropriated for this current fiscal year another $2 million. So effectively, they had available as of July the 1st of this year, $5 million for improvements and maintenance. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Well, now some of you remember this is a combination of a current expense fund and a capital outlay maintenance.
Yes.
One thing that we do is that we allocate interest also to these funds, and you add the interest to these funds every year, and the interest on these has built up over the years, and those funds, add to their fund balance.
Let me follow back up, because I've received right along and I don't want to get too much into the weeds here, but I received several calls last week in regards to the heat being down in Grantham. Absolutely no heat. Children in school with no heat at all. And I just find it awesome here that there's $5 million available to maintain these buildings. I'm just expressing a little concern to the ladies that call me in regards to no heat in Grantham.
Well, if you recall, in the joint meeting of I think the first meeting, and it was talked about more in the first meeting, the second meeting joint with the school board and the county commissioners, it was brought up by one of their members about needing some immediate things done. And I think I don't know if that was mentioned or not, but if you recall, my comment to them was, you do have money available that you could do some of those smaller projects, but I said, I would caution you before you do it. Obviously, it's you do what you need to do, you're an elected board, but before you do that, make sure we're looking at the full capital plan to know what debt service, because that debt service has to come out of the sales tax. We've got to look at all these issues holistically, but prioritize it, and Dr. Taylor and I and Pam and the finance officer of schools have talked about that. But they do have the funds to do those kinds of things.
Hopefully I didn't step on anybody's toes.
No, I mean, we discussed it in a joint meeting.
$5 million sitting there, I think they need to do some work.
You certainly didn't step on the parents in Grantham, I can tell you that.
You got those calls too.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Doherty.
Okay, on the next page, you have assigned for subsequent years' expenditures. Now, that's a unique account, and it's assigned. That means management has assigned it. It's a kind of a combination of some budget amendments that have taken place after 6/30/13, but before audit was finalized as far as our field work was complete. And that totals about $5.9 million for various areas like the general fund, meaning Fund 110, the specific fund, senior citizens, 4-H, co-op, economic development, social services, the emergency telephone fund, and the public health fund. And that's a lot of fund balance appropriations that you took place during budgeting, because the budget was approved by June 30th, and then a few significant budget amendments because they assigned that they took that out of your unrestricted and basically kind of said we're going to spend it. So therefore, we put it up in subsequent years' expenditures. Also, you have the cable TV fund balance that had a remaining balance of around $4.4 million and has been decided to be used tentatively for the radio system and the agriculture center. Again, this is assigned, so that's kind of management level. It doesn't mean that the county commissioners have put their stamp of approval that it's, you know, a done deal. It just means that the tentative decision has been made by management to use those funds there. So that's where the $10 million for subsequent years expenditures come from. Assigned for donations, that was $141,000. There's about a little over $15,000 for the animal shelter. That's setting in a fund that can be used there, and then the U.S. corridor, and that came from like other counties, but Pam has stated that that money has been sent where it needs to go. But that was, again, as of June 30th. And then the working fund balance policy. That is a calculation, and so I put the calculation on this so you understand where it comes from. If you go back to your Exhibit 5, you will see that your final budget for total expenditure was $107,000.
I wish it
107
was.
million, sorry, misspoke. 107 million. Wayne County's working fund balance policy says 14%, but that's a combination of state stabilization and your working fund balance policy. So, which is roughly 6% plus the 8% recommendation by the LGC, which makes 14%. So we take 107,000 times 14%, you get 15 million. Subtract out the state stabilization calculation, and you have your working fund balance policy of $9.3 million. Okay, and that just sets aside as your policy, which brings you down to that remaining fund balance of $19 million.
Any comments or questions from Ms. Lane?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. King?
This is through June 30, 13. Let's just compare. Did you run a comparison on this time the previous year and where we were?
No, sir, but I mean, I've looked at it personally, but off the top of my head, I did not bring that with me. But I
just
have looked
wondered
at
if
it.
this is better off if we were going to graft or run a chart. Are we moving in the same direction as far as the monies are?
Your remaining fund balance is down a little bit, what you're allowed to spend, but it just means you've committed a little bit more to projects. But your overall fund balance has increased for the general fund.
Okay.
Okay, so you have more fund balance, but you've just used it for projects is all it is. So that 19 million declined some, but all it did is you've gone forward with projects like Ag Center and things like that.
Just a follow-up, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
The reason I asked the question, you get ready to sit down, I'm getting ready to hear from the finance director, and it's going to give us, understand, an update through a particular month of the year and seeing how we are and comparing to where we are now and where we were last year. And just wanted to get a just general feel from the auditors how you feel about where we are financially.
Well, I mean, you're one of the stronger fund balances across the state. I mean, if you take and compared yourself, lots of times we have to look at your figures against the big ones, the Wake, the Mecklenburgs, because your ratios push you up there, even though you're like second tier population-wise.
Okay.
So, but your fund balance falls in the top tier when we look at those figures, like at the state level, when they provide that guidance.
Right.
Percentage-wise,
Right.
right.
And we were under a tax rate at this time through June 30 of what?
Well, it's in those notes. The higher rate,
7.25.
70.25, right. So,
Okay.
right.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any other comments or questions for the auditors? Mr. Daugherty?
Could you provide all of us a comparison last year versus this year? I think that would be very informative,
Of
so that
the-
we can see.
You want up the general fund, like these same items?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
basically. And the other comment is, and I'm trying to get my head around the fact it was June 30th, when do we appropriate the dollars for the design build in Mount Olive? Or were those already appropriated?
I'm sorry, one thing I was asked to answer your previous question, with the CAFR, and that's being bound, when we get that, that's gonna have all these things in there, and it does those, that's what you've seen before. And it's gonna do all those years' calculations, it goes back like 10 years.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, and it'll be in there.
All right. My question,
Mount Olive is a capital project fund, so
Yes.
this just presents general fund.
That's right. That was
so
capital
that had
reserve
already been
dollars.
assigned in prior years,
Yeah,
and
that's-
it was already designated.
And that would be in a different
Restricted.
exhibit.
Yes.
It would be in a different exhibit than what we presented today.
Yes.
Well, again, this novice, if it's restricted funds already restricted, showing these balances as restricted, why would it not be here?
Well,
Because we haven't spent it.
you have what's called it's a capital project. So you have these funds. You have general fund.
Right.
You have special revenue funds. You have capital project funds. Okay. All I presented today was general fund. Okay. Special revenues have to do with like tax rates, like fire department and things like that.
Right.
And then capital projects are project ordinances. And so all that money's in separate pots. And so all I presented was your general fund balance.
Yeah.
Now you do have a government-wide statement. Okay, that's Exhibit 1, that will be in your full audit, and shows you also. But this is like the money that's at your discretion.
All right, so actually, when we get the full report, it would actually
That's
show
right.
that.
And part of what I would like to do when we do our retreat, Mr. Chairman, this winter, is we usually do bring the auditors in. We do an update for the year, because then you're gonna, we'll be farther along with the schools. We're gonna be talking about capital, because obviously what fund balances we have here or in our capital reserves are going to be, attached based on those ratios are gonna change. And what I would hope to do with Davenport are do estimates of what those impacts will be in that retreat. That tells you kind of where we are, what tax rates might look like going forward, and that'll be in the full-blown report and have the auditors back in that retreat.
Mr. Chairman, could follow up also. Now, I understand on the last page here, I understand where we're transferring over fund balance. That's fund balance as such. But the first item here is general fund budget amendments through 10/2/13. Those were the budget amendments that came about from June 30th of 13 through
The second
10/2, October the 2nd.
that were approved by the
And
board.
you've lumped those together as 1.1 million, $1.55 million.
Well, they might also be some mixed in with those other groups, senior citizens. The general fund has how many different, 15? About 15 pots fall under the general fund. Senior citizens is one, social services is a pot. All these have different pots of money. So when I say general fund, on this spreadsheet, I'm talking just 110, which is just your main general government fund.
But we have basically had budget amendments of a little over $1 million, $1.155 million, to increase spending
Yes, sir.
by $1.155 million since June 30th.
But remember, some of those, and a lot of them had revenues
Revenues to
attached
offset.
with them, grants, things that we hadn't had a
Yes.
state
There you
allocation
go.
yet. Yes.
So with this report going out, I want
Yes.
the full
Absolutely.
story, and that is, not only did it go up, but also we had
Revenues
the
that came with
to
it.
offset some of
It
it.
would also include any fund balance appropriations you did in the original budget.
Exactly.
Right,
For 13-14.
Yes.
Because you took some of the fund balance that was left at 6/30/13 and said we're gonna spend some of it in some of these other spots.
That's right.
But do understand, with this report, if the average layman was looking at this, they'd turn around and say, well, these guys are spending like drunken sailors. They, you know,
You know, what we did in the, if you recall, in part of the budget process, we committed as management, if we did not have full notice that a grant was going to be received, we held back on the spending, we held back on the revenue. Then when it occurred and we said notification, we put the expenditure and the revenue in, and that would push the whole thing up.
well, there just need to be a little asterisk out there that in fact did include some revenues as well
Well,
as.
as Borden was just pointing out, when in a minute you'll be going over like the additional number 182, which is $804,000 on the local, the energy.
Sure.
You're gonna push the whole thing up almost another million.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And Mr. Daughtry, just
Thank
to understand, the general fund has 61 million in fund balance. The government-wide net position, and that's through your capital projects, it's 115 million.
Yes.
Okay.
So that includes your special revenues and your capital projects too. And you'll see that with your full audit, that we hope to get printed after the printers have your covers ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Daugherty. Any other questions or comments? Does this conclude your report?
No?
Any, Mr. Smith, Mr. Parker?
We appreciate the auditors. I mean, they work really hard. They come in here, and I can always remember I hear it down the hall, Pam saying, the auditors are coming, you know, some of them here, August rolls around, here they are, you know, and they live with us for months, but they always do a very good job and very thorough.
Mr. King?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. As we all know, with Mr. Smith, we get a lot of information from staff, and I have over the past year as chairman. But just for clarity, that the auditors work for the commissioners and do not work for the staff, nor do they work for anyone else. We hire them as a commission, and as a chairman this past year, anytime I had an issue with what I thought might be a little unbalanced, just for clarity, I went to the auditors. And Dana and Paul have been extremely sensitive and receptive to all the questions, and was very clear on their explanations. And I'm glad that we have such auditors that are of that. And you've done a great job this year to help me get through this year. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
One final comment I'd just like to make. Since we did receive notice yesterday that our audit was approved, I can say that, and we'll reiterate this during the work session on our presentation, that the county did have what we call a clean audit, and is in great shape financially. I can say that.
Thank you, Paul and Dana, for your budget report.
Good job.
Thank you.
County of Wayne financial presentation through October 31st of 2013. Ms. Holt?
Would y'all like for me to wait just a second?
Yeah, wait just a minute, please, for them. Apparently, they're older than I am. Huh? No, you want it? Yeah, sure. That's fine. I think we're good to go. Well, now the county manager's gone.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead. I am pleased to present the financial report for the period ending October 31st, 2013. Normally, I present on a quarterly basis, but I wanted to follow the auditors so that you had the most up-to-date information, and this is the most current month that we have the financials for in the finance office. I want to emphasize that this report is based on the first 4 months of financial information for the fiscal year 13-14. This report details your cash, the revised budget, the actual revenues or expenditures, and the percentage of actual to budget comparing the same period last year to the same period this year. The cash invested for the County of Wayne as of October 31st, 2013 was $85,539,677. Moving on to the next section. The next section on this report is the general fund revenues and expenditures. The general fund is a fund that includes the calculations we speak of when we refer to our fund balance. That is the calculation that the auditors have just presented to you. There were some questions as to like some of the capital projects, so I'm going to kind of go into that for y'all so you'll understand that just a little more clearly. All departments are included in the general fund except 911, your fire districts, your capital project funds, EMS, solid waste, the sewer fund, EMS net, and the airport. One reason that we present the general fund numbers to you is all of these other funds that we're talking, that I just listed there, the funds in those are restricted just by nature, because your special there's either laws connected to them or they're capital projects that y'all have set aside funds to. So they're all those funds are restricted. So that's why when we present, we talk to you about the general fund money. As of October 31st, the revenues exceeded expenditures by $72,388.68. One thing that I worked with the auditors very closely on this year is I kept the auditors informed of all the fund balance budget amendments that were going forward. And so right until the printing of the audit, they were capturing all the the general fund budget amendments y'all were making. So really, right now, your revenues are over your expenditures by $72,000, and so you can compare that to that $19 million figure, and that's where you're standing right now, well, as of October 31st. I will remind you that you're going into the period now where your taxes, your revenues will begin to exceed your expenditures by a great number, and then that supports, those revenues come in through the end of January, and that supports the rest of the year for you. Let's look at some of the tax revenues for this period. Current taxes for this year as of October 31st were $11,777,820.76. We have collected 56.94% of the delinquent budget taxes, or $555,184.12. We've collected 28.86% of budgeted vehicle taxes, or $1,610,812.92. The state has implemented the new DMV software system. I don't know if any of you have received any of your vehicle bills yet. It is in place. I would like to take a moment to brag a minute and say that Wayne County is leading the way in the state on implementation as far as getting this software up and going. We are still working on some of it. We are still having some problems coming down with the files that are coming from the state, but we are on top of this. And that's a lot of thanks to our IT department.
Mr. Chairman, can I inquire, when did that actually go into effect? The 1st of October?
Yes, that's right. We began receiving receiving small amounts in July, August, and September.
Okay.
And we were testing files during that time.
Thank you.
Delinquent vehicle taxes are at $555,184.12. The next revenues are the local sales tax revenues for Wayne County. Currently, I'll just remind you, we have 3 sales tax articles. Article 39, which is a 1% sales tax, Article 40, which is a 1/2 cent sales tax, and Article 42, which is a 1/2 cent sales tax. Of the Article 40, which is the 1/2 cent, 30% of that is shared with schools by law, and Article 42, 60% is shared with the school system. We have collected about 33% of budget for all the articles combined as of October 31st. On your handout I gave you, I included that on the back page, the sales tax, and that's where you'll see the 33%. Collection for July through October this year totals $5,483,865.63. compared to $5,474,178 for the same period the prior year, an increase of $9,687. I would call that flat.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. King.
I do applaud Ms. Holt and staff for budgeting a flat rate in sales tax receipts and the levy to get a better picture of what the schools are actually getting in Article 40 and 42.
Correct.
And with that said, I appreciate the Finance Department giving us an update over the last 5 years where we have seen a steady decrease, a huge decrease in sales tax receipts for Wayne County. And when she took, Mr. Chairman, when the staff took the initiative to look at the projected sales tax receipts that is dynamically affecting the funding of schools, that she used a flat rate of this year and did not give us something that was inflated and just looked good. I appreciate that, and certainly that report on the sales tax. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
As you can,
Mr. Chairman, if
Mr.
I
Doherty.
could inquire. I'm not quite understanding, if we're collecting all the sales tax, the school taxes as well as our portion of the tax, why would the collection percentages be different? Because we're showing 31% collection for the 2.3 million in collections on the 1% sales tax levy, 36% for the half cent, and 33% on the other half cent.
well, when you're actually coming up with a budget on these, the way I budget for these, I budget for them by article. So the sales that are behind each article do not have the same laws behind them. So I look at history, I look at the economy, and I come up with a budget for each article, not in total. When I'm talking about, like I just quoted to you, that we had collected 33%. That's pretty good, because that's 4 months. That's right on target.
Right.
In total for all three.
Right.
On this particular handout here, I do give it to you by article, by the 1%, by the 0.5%,
Okay.
and by the 0.5%.
Thank you very much.
And I'll just remind you, as you can tell from this chart, for the last 6 years, our lowest fiscal year was the 10-11 year. And just to remind you that we are right on target this year as we were last year. So that's just telling you the economy is right where it was last year at this time. The next section details the major county expenditures and provides a summary of the activity and status of each function. Let's look at services on aging first. Services on aging, the revenues are at 24.98% and the expenditures are at 22.76%. Wayne County Development Alliance, revenues are at 32.91% and expenditures are at 32.83%. Public Assistance, or Department of Social Services, revenues are at 32.85% and expenditures are at 30.56%. These are all very healthy percentages. Public Health, revenues are at 32.79% and expenditures are at 29.38%. The reval fund, which we talked about, the auditors talked about, is we build those funds and we have a revaluation every 8 years. We go ahead and move the entire amount that we appropriated in the beginning of the year. So our revenues are $115,667. That's the total revenues that will be in that fund for the year, and expenditures are at $13,975. The emergency telephone, revenues are at 21.21% and expenditures are at 28.37%. I will remind you that's the fund. I've talked to you about it before. A new funding formula for PSEPs was put in place 3 years ago. We were receiving $1.3 million, and this year we're receiving $299,000. A decrease of $1 million as compared to 3 years ago. This distribution change is based on a 5-year rolling average cost formula. Their intention is to only fund ongoing operating and capital cost, and we still have a substantial fund balance. So until we bring that fund balance down, they will not be funding us anymore. any higher dollars. They'll fund us, but not at the rate that we were getting funded. Next, we'll look at the selected county projects. The total spent on the radio system, $10,035,323.88. And the total spent on the Steele Memorial Library so far is $400,975.27. Next is EMS. Revenues are at $1,872,943.07, and expenditures $1,724,634. Solid Waste. Revenues are at $1,396,284.65, and expenditures $1,085,128.41. Sewer. Revenues are at 23.19 cents and expenditures 48.63%, and that is because they have had some capital cost in the beginning of the fiscal year.
Hope there was an excuse for that.
EMS net revenues are at 24.81% and expenditures at 28%. Airport revenues are at 34.42% and expenditures at 33.10%. The workers' comp self-insurance fund has a cash balance of $1,608,641.13, and the hospitalization fund has a cash balance of $1,887,305.48. So what I am telling you is through October 31, you're sitting just about in the same position you were June 30th, which is very good because the tax revenues are not coming in at this period, during this period, at a high rate.
And you've worked off a tax, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. King.
Just have it, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
What rate are you working off here, tax rate?
66.65.
So we're actually 4 cents less.
A little less than 4 cents.
A little less than 4 cents. And we're better off than we were last year.
Well, you've got to.
In revenues, that's what I'm seeing
As
here.
now, remember, your taxes are not due till January. So you can't really say,
Okay.
because some people may say, well, I'm going to pay them early this year, and the next year they don't pay them early.
Okay.
So you're not to your due date yet. So you really can't compare that at this point.
When do you think we can get a good picture of that in reference to just looking at how the rate compares to last year and in anticipation of school improvements?
You'll be able
because
to-
of their interest in looking at financing. So I'm trying to get a picture if we get a good snapshot maybe in February or March. you
Yes,
think?
definitely. Your taxes are due in January.
Yes.
So you could compare January to January.
Okay.
January 31-14 to January 31-13.
So we can get a good snapshot in January, no later than February 1.
Right.
Okay.
If you want to report, since I am reporting now on the end of October, I can, if you would like, I'll report instead of on the end of December, I can report on the end of January, and that will give you your taxes will all be in at that point.
Okay,
And that might be a better picture for y'all.
good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. King.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Doherty.
I was interested in your comments on the emergency telephone,
Yes.
where we have a $1 million drop in the funds coming to the county.
Right.
And if I understood you to say that that would stay at that level until we used up our fund balance.
Right,
Our
and-
reserves.
But I'll remind y'all of this, it's just not so easy to use them. They have so many restrictions on them that it's not that we're not using those funds, it's we're using all the funds they'll let us use.
I understand. But am I understanding to say that once we get that fund balance down, that our portion would increase?
Yes, yes, it would. It would
Then
go
I
up.
would highly recommend that we find somewhere that, that's allowable
And-
to where we can spend these dollars.
And I think that, yeah, they're working on that right now.
Okay.
So, and what we have to do is we try to get prior approval from them ahead of time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Pate.
I'm just gonna comment, it seemed like I asked this question before, we got punished for doing a good job of keeping our money, and
Yes.
then they changed the rules
We did a
on us.
real good job.
That's what happened. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. King.
If we look at a 5-year period, can you anticipate the dollars of those reductions? The commissioner just said spend it down. With the slowdown in lottery receipts and working on a level sales tax receipt, anticipation of level sales tax receipts and the reduction in the state allocations for lotteries, is there a way that we can do a pro forma that will give us a 5-year outlay?
You mean on using on those particular funds?
Yes, ma'am.
Right now I've got some projects, that they're hoping will meet the restrictions they have on it. And I think they have a plan out there for the next couple of years to try to use it. The problem is getting approval to use it. That is our problem.
Approval by whom?
Is it the 911 board?
Joe? Is that?
I didn't realize Joe was out here. You may want to come speak on this.
If you do, come up here, Joe. Because that's been a big problem.
Well, I have to, just to follow up real quick before he speaks, is that something that the General Assembly will have to approve?
They can. They can change it.
And they evaluate that every 2 years. That committee was formed, and it's to be evaluated every 2 years. Representative Sager was on that committee initially, and did a good job for us. And yes, we did have a good savings, and we're not allowed to spend that money freely like other counties were, because we're trying to save up for capital improvement projects. And if we get down to the restricted part, I'll ask Mel to give you some more insight on the actual restricted part. But to spend that money down, as Ms. Holt said earlier, it's going to take a concentrated effort, and it's going to probably be such things as brick and mortar as a backup center. But that will have to go to the 911 board as well for approval. But we have that in place to move forward. We just got a few things ahead of us we've got to get taken care of before we can move on with that backup or primary.
And we included that in the CIP. Just as a planned item. It's not been approved, but just as a planned item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. King. Move on.
All righty. Are y'all ready for budget amendments?
Next item of business is the budget amendments. Ms. Holt.
Okay, your first budget amendment is number 159. It's for seized property. It's an increase of $4,926.96. That's the Sheriff's Department. And the next one is number 165, Controlled Substance, an increase of $685.39. Those are both related to the Sheriff's Office.
Pleasure of the board.
I move we approve.
Have a motion on the floor with Mr. Pate. Any other discussion? All in favor of Mr. Pate's motion, show a sign of raising your right hand. Motion carried unanimous.
Your next budget amendment is number 163. It's for services on aging. It is a grant, senior health insurance information program, increasing a grant $1,739 in the related expenditures.
Pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Camardi,
I move we approve.
any discussion? A motion on the floor with Mr. Ed that we approve this budget amendment. All in favor, show a sign of raising your right hand.
Budget number 169 is a fund balance appropriation for the Soil and Water Department. Is to reappropriate contingency funds that there are restricted for them, and they are just now getting these numbers to us. That's why it's late. It is an increase of $20,395.81, and the related expenditures.
Pleasure of the board.
I move we approve.
Have a motion on the floor with Mr. Pate. We approve this budget amendment. Any discussion? All in favor, show a sign of raising your right hand. Motion carries unanimous.
Number 171 is for the Jetport. It is a Division 09 and 10 grant. is increasing the grant by $2,948. We have to have a 10% match, so we have the earnings appropriated of $294.80 for a total for the fuel farm design of $3,242.80.
Pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Camardi.
I move we approve.
A motion on the floor with Mr. Camardi that we approve this budget amendment. Any discussion? Mr. King? Oh, okay. All in favor, show of sign, raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimous.
Number 177 is for the library. This is another grant that we're getting an increase on for $6,674. This is your library state aid grant that they just received notice that they were getting more funds.
Pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Daugherty.
I move adoption of Budget Amendment 177.
I have a motion on the floor with Mr. Daugherty. Any discussion? All in favor, show sign of raising your right hand. Motion carries unanimous.
And then you have a walk-on, number 182. This is also grant revenue. It's administrative revenue increase of $804,212. This is for low-income home energy assistance program. And this is one of the ones that we have just gotten the final dollars on, increasing the grant revenue and the related expenditure.
Pleasure of the board.
I move that we approve.
A motion on the floor with Mr. Pate that we approve this budget amendment. Any discussion? All in favor, show the sign of raising your right hand.
And that concludes the budget amendments.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Daugherty.
under new business, before we move on, I have a motion I'd like to make. I move that we authorize and direct the county manager to pay the employees that which he has determined were underpaid under the payroll system in effect during the period of July the 1st of 2012 through December the 31st of 2012 in the payroll of January 2014.
Have a motion on the floor with Mr. Daugherty. Any discussion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. King.
This motion comes from the closed session that we had today, and I am very happy to say that I'm glad that we are moving forward today and getting the payroll issues taken care of. It is something that this board inherited from the previous board. We have been working on it diligently all year. And to come to this point where we are making a motion that I fully support, that we start taking care of this issue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments? I have a, Mr. Smith or Mr. Parker, you have any?
No, sir.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion, show a sign of raising your right hand. Motion's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Daugherty. Okay. Any other business needs to be brought before the board? Mr.
One
Pate?
question, the gentleman with the fireworks about the Parkstown Parade, do we have that information together, or we need to move on that today, or?
It would be something.
Not parade, but the festival, I'm sorry.
Yes. That Mr. Lewis was here before you, and the procedure is that he needs to go by the inspections department to get an application actually applied and get them, and we would recommend that you allow that subject to his being approved by the inspections department.
Do we need a motion on that? Or just?
You'd need a motion on that.
Well, I make that motion then. Contingent on him getting the inspections.
Marcia, will you read that back so everyone will be clear on it, please?
Actually, I think it's Hale Artificiary Fireworks Company would be allowed to have fireworks display at Parkstown Christmas Festival on December 12th.
12th, yeah.
Contingent upon approval by the inspections department.
Any questions? have a motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion, show by sign of raising your right hand. Motion's unanimous. Already been in the closed session. Board of Commissioners' comments. Mr. Camardi?
I reserve the right to comment another day.
Okay. Mr. Pate?
I was just going to say that we do have some more parades coming up this Saturday, and I forgot to mention that I was in the Seven Springs Parade with Mr. Doherty. We were both there. We had a great time. Had a big crowd there, and we all go there on Saturday. I think we got parades all day long. And just think about your friends and families during the holidays and those less fortunate folks out there. Thank you.
Mr. King?
No comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Mayo?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just want to say that this past year, it's been a pleasure for me to serve as vice chair under Commissioner King. It's been a hard road, and we've accomplished a lot as a commission board. So, Chairman, I'm going to have to get out of the habit of calling you chairman.
Yes, sir.
But Commissioner King, I want to congratulate you on a job well done.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And I have really learned a lot about what to do the right way and the protocol. But just for a moment, I want to speak to the citizens of Wayne County, and especially in District 1, that elected me, voted for me. Ask yourself the question, what do you think of when you hear the word politician or politics? What's the first thing that most people think of? Well, don't answer that. Don't answer that. What I want to say is back when I ran for commissioner and when I took the last year of Andy Anderson's last year of his term, I made it clear to the citizens of Wayne County that I did not run as a politician. I ran as a citizen servant. There's a difference. And I want to make sure that the citizens of Wayne County know that what happened today here does not change me as far as what my values are and what I stand for. I am the same right now as I was an hour ago or 2 hours ago. I'm still a commissioner. And so what I'm saying is that there's politics involved, but I never ran on that issue of having politics to come into play. Now, you can define politics any way you want to. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying one way or the other. What I am saying is that the board has voted, and that's fine with me. I have no problem with that. I am the same now as I was 2 hours ago. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Doherty?
Mr. Chairman, we've all served a year on this board, and it was a learning process. It continues to be a learning process. And in that discussion, I would ask Mr. Parker, as our county attorney, to inform me and the board members and the citizens of what the specific duties and the powers of the chairman and vice chairman, as well as individual commissioners, are. I think that I, for one, need to know that. I think a number of people need to know that, and I'm hoping that you can kind of enlighten us in regards to what those specific duties are.
Yes, sir. The chairman presides and keeps the meeting moving, makes rulings as to what is appropriate, and asks for votes. But in everything that a presiding officer would do during the meeting, with county commissioners, the chairman also votes, and it's not a vote just to break a tie. It is a vote on every occasion. The chairman votes. The chairman has the authority under the statute to call special meetings. The chairman traditionally represents the county or the board when somebody is asked to go to represent the county. And that is generally the chairman that goes there. In practice in Wayne County, the chairman with the manager and anybody else that the chairman and/or the manager invites sets the agenda for the meetings. That does not mean that other members of the commission cannot ask that something be on after the agenda has been set and published. The chairman traditionally has appointed the Board of Commissioner committees, members, and the chairman of those committees. The chairman would act for the board when the board so authorizes that act. And one of the things, for instance, every year you have someone who is appointed to represent the county at your conventions and to cast the county's vote. That would be a specific thing that would be authorized. And something that I'm very pleased to announce that no chairman, to my knowledge, in Wayne County has ever been able or had to do is to appoint members to the vacancy on a board if there is not a quorum on the board to make those appointments. That and so you would have to, a lot of you would have to not be there for him to be able to do that. The vice chairman serves in those same things when the chairman is unable for whatever reason to serve and would be called upon to act as the chairperson. I don't believe I mentioned that the chairman can call a special meeting of the Board of Commissioners as well. And in his absence, the vice chairman could also do that. You would have to have the 48 hours notice to have that meeting, and the reason for the meeting would have to be spelled out in the notice. The vice chairman, as I say, acts in the stead of the chairman. Each board member, did that answer with respect to the chair and the vice chair?
Yes.
Each board member has a vote and can ask that certain things be put on the calendar, can, as you did today, made a motion that was not on the list, and as Mr. Pate did based on Mr. Lewis's request, you can take action that is not specifically on the printed agenda. It takes a majority of the board to pass anything. The members of the commission act as a board, and the county doesn't. I mean, one person doesn't act for the county. The board acts for the county, and it's by action of the board. Now, it sounds like occasionally I'm accused of talking out of both sides of my mouth. If the board has specifically authorized a board member, including the chairman, to do a specific thing, then the individual can act for the county under those circumstances. But unless that is done, the county acts through a action of this Board of Commissioners, not on, I mean, Mr. Bell, for instance, couldn't say the county's going to do something and that would happen unless he had been authorized to do that by the board.
Could I possibly ask you to put that in written form and distribute that to us all?
I will.
Send us a copy of that.
I will, and let me, if I may, read something that is certainly much better than what I've described, I'm sure, and it comes from a publication from the School of Government and was written by Joe Farrell, who was at the Institute of Government many years ago when I became the county attorney and became a professor emeritus at the School of Government. He says the powers of the Board of County Commissioners are vested in the board acting as a body. An individual commissioner has no power apart from the full board. Commissioners may not, even by agreement, act on matters individually. That power must be exercised collectively.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Bell?
all of us should have that book, Mr. Doyle.
We do.
Yeah, I think it's something we distributed.
All right. In concluding my comments of today, I'm proud that this board has accomplished a major milestone that has been sought by the majority of Americans by choosing a new bipartisan leadership team for this board and Wayne County. We acknowledge the fact that while we may differ on political philosophy, together we can and must find common ground to move Wayne County to new heights. The founders of our nation and our state were wise when they developed the structure of government at all levels. They did not establish any level of government which placed all of the power in the decision-making in the hands of one. They purposely established checks and balances and bodies of government which required a majority group decision. This required the members to listen and act by working together to find consensus. I remind everyone that we were elected to represent the citizens of Wayne County on the Board of Commissioners. Each of us brings a unique perspective on the issues brought before the board, and we must respect those ideas and perspectives to reach sound decisions. Although we may disagree on the issues brought before us, it is my sincere hope that this board will respect our fellow board members and work harder to be inclusive on all matters involving board action. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Mr. Bell?
And on Commissioner Doherty's note, I conclude my comments. No, I have nothing else to say.
Okay. I've got just a few comments. I appreciate the confidence of the board in bestowing on me the honor of being chairman for this coming year. I will do the best that I can. Are we going to always agree on every issue? Probably not. But the bottom line is what is best for the citizens and taxpayers of Wayne County. And also, it had been mentioned whether we were going to have our December 17th meeting since it comes so close to the holidays. I'm just going to express my opinion, and I'll ask for opinions from other board members. I know it is close to Christmas, but the citizens of the county elected us to run the business of the county, and I personally, I don't think we need to cancel this meeting. I think we need to have it. We can have a short meeting, but that's just my opinion. Is there any comment from any of the other board members?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
Mr. King.
During the pre-agenda meeting last week, the planning board, I think Mr. Cromartie could, I guess, validate some plans from Mr. Connie Price, planner, who may have something for us to look at on the 17th. And if he does, then putting those off until January might delay some of the developers that are having plats wanting to approve. That would be the only thought at this time, that something that might be required on the 17th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Any comments from any other commissioners?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Payne.
Are there any other pressing matters that you know of, Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir. Well, I think the planning board was.
Hopefully it could be a short meeting.
I mean, there's a lot of time between now and then, so I mean.
I'd love to have a short
They
meeting.
can come up, sure. I do want to mention, Mr. Chairman, that we've been invited, I think it was a very kind offering, and we would like to have our meeting in another location for kind of the Christmas meeting. At the senior center, they wanted to decorate and have lunch for us, so we'd like to go over there if you'd allow us, and we've worked with our staff, and they're going to do the cameras, and it'll be filmed, but we thought that would be kind of nice Christmas, just do something a little different if you're all right with that. So we would just want to announce that it would be at the senior center on the 17th, I believe, same time, and just want to make sure if that's all right, then we'll.
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Any other comments, Mr.
Does
Bell?
the new chairman pay for this event?
Look at that no comment.
That was not one of the things I listed the chairman had to do.
I'm in the process of paying my county taxes now, Mr. Bill. Maybe finance will work with you on getting a little bit of it to help pay for the meal.
I think we'll be fine.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir,
if I
Mr.
could
Doty.
inquire, if that is going to be a brief session, do we need to move our meeting maybe to 10 o'clock versus 9 o'clock? Maybe move it up an hour, or what's your thoughts on it? If we're going to have lunch,
Lunch is like at 11 for senior center.
It's-
it is?
Their,
Oh, okay.
their lunch is at 11, so.
Okay. Never mind, thank you.
So is it the pleasure of the board that we do have the 17th meeting at the senior center?
Move we do so, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion on the floor that we have the December 17th business meeting at the senior center. Any other discussion? Have a motion on the floor. All in favor, show a sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous. Okay, there's Board of Commissioners information. I mean,
That's just general information. Any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
okay. Is there any other business to come before the board today?
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
I have a motion on the floor that we adjourn. Any discussion?
One thing,
Mr. Pate?
I want to thank Miss Marcia for the cookies, and don't let our health director know that we got them.